大家好，我今天想分享一下我学习中文的经历和方法。Hi guys, in this video I'm going to share my journey learning Chinese, the easy parts of learning Chinese, the hard parts, and some of the lessons that I've learned and what I would do if I was learning Chinese again. So if you're looking to learn Chinese, I will hopefully this can be helpful for you to learn Chinese, and I'm also going to give you a system and some key strategies and methods for how to learn Chinese. So I learned Chinese studying at Peking University in Beijing and Beijing Language and Culture University. And I started learning Chinese about 15 years ago at university, and I started learning myself before studying in these universities in Beijing. So I've tried, I think, every method of learning Chinese. Looking back, I've made a lot of mistakes and done it quite inefficiently in how I would recommend doing it in the future. So I think this can be really helpful as well for if you're looking to learn Chinese going forward. And at the same time, recently in the last 2 years, I'm not living in China. I'm living outside China in Dubai, and I'm kind of not spending as much time in China. So I'm also going through the process of reusing my Chinese and keeping it up to speed. And I will be going to China later on this week. So I will also be making videos about China and my experiences in China. So if you'd like to see what it's like in China, and you can check out and subscribe to this channel for more videos about China. So what are the easy parts of learning Chinese? There are basically 3 easy parts. The grammar is easy. It's also really fun to learn Chinese, and it's super interesting as well. So these are the easy or the good parts of learning Chinese. The hard parts is the characters. Everyone knows there's thousands of characters that you need to learn. 3,000 to 5,000 if you want to read a newspaper is probably what you need to learn. The tones are also quite difficult because there's many different types of tones. And the most importantly, the hardest part is that it's a marathon, it's not a sprint, and you have to keep going when you're learning Chinese. So I'm going to talk mostly about that and the strategies and methods to learn. So what are the challenges in learning Chinese? I think what are the easy parts of learning Chinese? I think there is the grammar. So for example, if you compare French or Spanish or Russian, any of these languages, they have very many things that you need to learn. But in Chinese, it's very easy to say past tense. You just use the character le or guo. There's very simple words that you need to put if you're going to say the past tense. But you don't need to learn all these different conjugations and endings. The other thing that's really easy is that it's really fun to learn Chinese. When you speak and when you go to China, you get a lot of positive feedback from people that are amazed when you can speak Chinese. So you just travel, and people, especially anywhere you go in China, they will just say, wow, I can't believe you speak Chinese, it's so impressive, and you can just open huge doors in an amazing country. And the other thing that's really cool about learning Chinese is that it's really interesting. I really found one of the most interesting parts about learning Chinese for me was understanding the characters and how they are all connected and where they come from as well. And for example, many of them have interesting meanings, and I've made some other videos about that. So what is the hard part of learning Chinese? The hard part is that it's a marathon, not a sprint. And this is one of the mistakes that I made. It's because I would sometimes just go super intense on learning Chinese for a period of time, and then I kind of after some time, it's not sustainable to be so intense. So then I would have some kind of break, or I would not do it as much. And that's just it's counterproductive. Basically, the hard thing about it is you just have to keep going, and it's better to do a little part that's more sustainable instead of just doing constantly learning Chinese if it's not sustainable. So that's why it's important to make learning fun, and that's why it's important to have a good strategy and a good way of learning. So what I would do if I was learning Chinese again is I would be very clear on my reasons for learning Chinese. I would break the goal down into smaller goals, and then I would reward myself when I achieved these goals. So I think the core strategy for learning Chinese. It's the same as any other. Hi guys, so I'm actually just a week later and I'm now in Beijing in China, and so I'm going to now continue the video and then I'm going to share some more things and some more videos about my experience in China. So if you like that, check out those videos and you can subscribe to the channel. So what I was saying is basically, if I was going to do it again, I would change a lot of things. I think the first thing I would change is that, well, like starting at the high level, is that it's important to have a very clear goal and to think about the goal and think about the plan towards it and break down the clear goal into stages. So if you want to be fluent in Chinese and be able to communicate with people, then you want to break it down into what are the steps to get there. So normally the really good way of doing it is just the HSK levels, which goes up to HSK 6, and then you can measure those according to how much vocabulary, how many words you'd need to know. And there's a very clear curriculum about how you should learn and how you should develop along HSK. So I would really focus on that as the core backbone, which I think I have done, but I would use that as a clear goal. And I've actually created another video about how to create goals and some of the things I've learned about creating goals and having a vision. So I've made another video about that, which you can check out. And so I think what I would do is I would set up goals and then have a clear timeline and what I would look to achieve according to that timeline. So, and giving myself a reward according to hitting each thing. So for example, having however you'd like, whatever motivates you, which may be getting some nice clothes or getting some nice food or something. Just find a way to motivate yourself just make sure to stick to this goal system so that you're working towards it. And then now we go back into the methods of how you'd learn Chinese. I think the main ways of learning Chinese is that there are several different paths to learn Chinese. There's several little tools that you need to develop in the toolkit, such as the basics of reading, writing, speaking, listening, and look at each part of learning Chinese and how you need to break it down. So you would need to, first I would try and find some way of learning Chinese that I find really fun and interesting, because there's so many ways that you can learn Chinese. So what is the biggest way that motivates you and that is really interesting to you? Some people like to read, or some people like to listen, or some people like to watch movies. Whatever it is, you want to find a way that is interesting or exciting for you and that you find really fun, because that will mean that you can just keep going and you can keep learning. So I would definitely do that as a core strategy. At the same time, characters is one of the really important parts of learning Chinese. So I would focus on creating the Anki cards and creating how you would learn Chinese through the characters and breaking down the characters according to each HSK level. And one really good tip that I learned was in how you can listen to podcasts or listen to some audio and use that as a way of learning. So if you're listening for 30 minutes every day or 15 minutes every day of some podcast or radio show, then you can just pick it up really easily from that. And it's a good idea to have comprehensible input, which means that you're listening to stuff which is just a little bit above your level. So when you listen to a sentence and it has a few words you don't understand, you can kind of guess it from what the sentence means, what you think they're talking about, and then you can just fill in the blanks. There's a really good way of improving your knowledge. And it's good because it also, you learn the rhythm of the language and you learn many things without actually realizing it. So when you have absorbed so much of this content in your mind, when you come across something, then you can, or when you want to speak something just feels wrong, or if it's not correct, something just feels like totally different to all of the material you've heard before. And so that's why it's good just to have absorbed all of this material, and then you just have it and you can access it at a deeper level. And it helps because if you say something that you feel is not right, you know that it's not right because it's different to what before, but also because you can just somehow you can just bring this knowledge up without realizing it. When you've absorbed so much knowledge, you just start reusing it, and it just emerges somehow when you need it, or when you're learning something similar to it in the future, you can just piece it together. So that's a really powerful way of just absorbing all this incomprehensible input, which is just above your level. And then I would also have a teacher who was helping me to go through that, or I think it could be possible to learn it yourself, but it's good to have a teacher as well who can help to guide you and give you feedback and help make corrections, to have that as well. And of course you need to be speaking it so that you can get in the practice of it, because otherwise you'll be what's known as there are many people in China who are what they're called Yaba Inyi, which is deaf dumb English, which is they can read and write English perfectly, but if you say something or if they speak to you, they can't speak because they have no practice of it. So you just need to speak as much as possible. So what you can basically practice by making Chinese friends, finding language partners. Using italki is a good way to practice having conversation partners, and also creating content is a really good idea, a really good way. So I've created some Xiaohongshu content which has got many views, and it's because there's not many foreign creators who are creating content. So if you do create content on Chinese social media, you can get a lot of you can get a lot of attention depending on the topic, which can also be motivating in some way to help you to create more content. So those are some of the ways. And then I really think it's good to follow a book and follow a system, because then you just work through all of the key things methodically, and it's just much more efficient, which you can work on yourself, or you can have a teacher to help you to do that. But I think the main core strategy that I'd like to share is just to have a little bit every day and have goals that you are looking to work towards. Reward yourself on those goals, but just keep consistent. Look at the big goal of what you're trying to achieve, and then just bring it down to every day and then work it from there. So this day I need to learn 5, 10, 15 characters. Just do that for 2 years, and you will be at an amazing level. And it's not about the end goal as much as it is about enjoying the process and getting into the process of learning it. So yeah, if you want to learn more Chinese, then check out China Admissions, which is our online platform for applying to universities in China. There's many different programs that you can learn Chinese, and at the same time we also have a really popular program, which is the Beijing Language Culture Online Chinese class, which is a 12-week. They have a few different programs, and one of them is the 12-week program, which is you will improve your Chinese by half an HSK. Another one is which is done in a group. Another one is a one-on-one Chinese class with a Chinese teacher who will help you through online learning. And I've taken this course myself, and it's very powerful, so I really recommend that. And I recommend the BLC Chinese courses, which you will also get a certificate at the end when you finish the course. So if you have any more questions, let me know in the comments, and check out, subscribe for the next video. Cheers.